with a fascinating topic called Meditations from Sinai. So it's a very interesting topic, and I'm very excited about this topic. I didn't think I would get to teach it, actually. As I mentioned, Rabbi Chazana was supposed to teach it, but unfortunately, he's not feeling well, but it's actually pretty nice. It was a very interesting class, and we're going to learn some fundamental ideas in meditation, the Jewish perspective on it, and it's really a whole week, a whole 6-part course. So we're just going to touch on the beginning of it, and then with Hashem's help, we'll kick it off today, and Rabbi Chazana will take over next week and go through the next 5 weeks of classes that we had. So let us begin we'll jump right into it, and we're going to begin with some basic ideas in meditation. Yes, Shlomo asked me that unfortunately his neighbor passed away today, next door neighbor, and he asked that we dedicate today's class to that person's memory. What's the name? You texted me, do you remember? Pinchas Ben Yitzchak his neshama should have an aliyah, and today's learning we want to do in his memory. So I want to share with you some ideas about a little note about how long ago, how ancient is the modern meditation. What's the earliest records of the secular kind of the worldly meditation that exists? And the earliest records, they say, go back to India about 1500 BCE. So a very long time ago, actually. That's, I guess, about 3,500 years ago. Which is very old. So I guess they have very old sources, which I found it very interesting. I saw a little note here about some very old sources of meditation that goes back till about 3,500 years ago. However, we beat them. If you want to know, we have sources in the Torah which goes back not just 1500 BCE, but 1812 BCE, when Avram Avinu was born, and we have already that meditation was already around in the times of Avram Avinu. So if you want to know, I mean, I guess that's pretty old. 1500 BCE is very old, but in Judaism, we have sources which actually predates even the earliest times of where the earliest sources of where meditation exists. So is meditation a Jewish idea? We'll see. Today's class is going to start off with some sources about meditation in Judaism. That's a very good place to begin. I do want to share another very interesting note that I found in what is the difference between Jewish meditation and what would perhaps be some of the differences. There are some key differences that he brings here in a note, which I do want to share with you guys. One obvious difference is that Jewish meditation would start from the premise about the belief in Hashem. All the meditations that we have in Judaism would start from that premise that we believe in one God. And the other worldly meditations, unfortunately, are based off some forms of idol. Could be, not all of them, but other meditations and other sources can possibly, I'll mention it again soon, can possibly be based off idolatry, and something called shituf. Shituf means even if it's not denying God fully, but kind of a deity that would say that God exists, but it's itself considered a deity too. So other meditations some of these, especially the ancient meditations, I guess, I think he's going to say, especially from the Eastern meditations, they still have till today the names and the words of some of the ancient idols in the current day meditations that are used. So if you wanted to know an interesting difference, I really enjoyed this note. He brought down 3 major differences that would be between Jewish meditation and some of these other ancient meditations that exist, is that some of them are based off idolatry and even still have the names of the idol in their meditation. Another key differences between Jewish meditation and other meditations is that the ultimate goal of Jewish meditation is to connect one with Hashem and bring godliness into this world. Other meditations could perhaps have a goal, which maybe we want to call it either transcendence, of maybe leaving this world. Our goal in Judaism will always be to bring Hashem down into this physical world. However, other meditations might say that it's more of the idea of leaving this world, going away from this world. That would be a difference. Together with that, also now we're not saying they're bad, they're just different. Is also the goal could be perhaps for mental health, but the goal of Jewish meditation would be ultimately to bring Hashem down into this physical world. That's what the goal of Jewish meditation would be. And finally, Jewish meditation comes from holiness, is rooted in the Torah, which means anything real, legit Jewish meditation, whatever you want to call it, Jewish meditation would have to come from Torah, while other meditations can either be idolatry or it could just be not Torah, but kosher. It doesn't mean it's not kosher, but it comes from another source. So I found that note very interesting here to differentiate between Jewish meditation, some of the differences that might be, if you wanted to ask the differences, is one of them is that Jewish meditation always has the belief of Hashem as its core, while other meditations could have idolatry at its core. Second difference is that the goal of Jewish meditation is to bring Hashem down into this world, while other meditations might be transcendence or mental health or whatever other good reasons too, but not to bring Hashem into this earth. And finally, the third difference is that Jewish meditation is always going to be rooted in Torah and holiness, while other ones could be from other sources, good or not, or just nothing, or not bad, but not Torah, where they will come from. It's just fascinating because we throw around the word meditation so frequently. I wanted to point out that fascinating difference to me. That is a good way to sum it up. So where do we find one of our earliest texts in Torah that it predates any other texts that show that there is a source for meditation and how we see it sold in Torah? So we'll look into the story of Avraham Avinu. So I have a text on the slide. You guys can see the slide too, right? So the earliest text, I don't know, one of the earliest is from our forefathers. We see from Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. As we said, they lived in 1800 BCE. From our patriarchs, we do have text that will show, and we will show you in today's text, about the source of where we see that Avraham Avinu and all of them, all the patriarchs, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, that these men were meditators. Where do we see that from? What is my source for that? So look in text number 1. You guys should have the student book. I sent everyone the link in the email that I sent out to everyone that I knew was coming. Got an email with a link to a student textbook. So God willing, at the end of today's class, I never know who's coming till the first class. So I'm going to order the books, and I will, God willing, with Hashem's help, by next week we'll have the books for whoever wants them. So text number 1 says, and this is an interesting text from about 300 years ago. A great rabbi by the name of Rabbi Leo HaKoyen explained the kind of work that the forefathers did. So I'll read it inside text number 1. The patriarchs chose to be shepherds, because if you'll notice, in the Torah, the patriarchs were constantly shepherds. And this great scholar 300 years ago is telling you what is the reason that Avraham was a shepherd. He did that for a living. And Yitzchak was a shepherd for a living. And Jacob, we see Isaac was constantly with sheep. So he tells you what's the reason behind it. He says the reason is so that they could be alone in the wilderness where the air is clean and pure, and they would be far from other people for the sake of secluding themselves in divine meditation, right? It's in page number 3 in your book. So we have here one of our great tzaddikim from a few hundred years ago explaining the reason why the kind of business ventures that the forefathers chose out of all the abilities, I don't know, whatever was in business back in the day, is because they wanted to connect to Hashem in this way with meditation and so on. We don't have what was their meditation. What exactly was their meditation? I'm going to share with you soon in a few minutes what to meditate about. There's at the end of the class today, I'll show you, I'll take you there in a minute, but we don't know what they were meditating about. I don't know that we have any sources to tell us what it was that they meditated on, but we do know that their meditation led them to an unbelievable belief in Hashem, a tremendous, tremendous belief in Hashem. There's a text that says that, we'll see it soon, that their belief in Hashem, we know that they believed in Hashem. One of the descriptions are like a chariot, just like a horse pulls a chariot and the chariot goes wherever the horse wants it to go. That is the degree of they were totally nullified to Hashem. So their connection and their bond to God was pure, was in an unbelievable level. And through their meditation, through their prayer and their connection to Hashem, obviously they reached a tremendously high level to be that committed and that dedicated to Hashem. Another source, because we want to know where else in Judaism do we see that meditation is a very important part of life, an important part of Torah, an important part of Judaism. And that next point is prayer, is davening. Prayer, unlike perhaps if people went to shuls today, where they daven quickly, they'll think that prayer is about reading a lot of words, getting into shul and doing lip service. But the truth is that davening and prayer is really about what we want to call service of the heart, that one should connect to Hashem with the essence of their neshama, with the essence of the heart. And we see this in the next text on the screen over here. You'll see in figure 1.1, the word tefillah on the top of the screen, on the top right-hand side of the screen, you could see it. It says the word tefillah. That is the Hebrew word for prayer. We call it tefillah. I know in Yiddish we call it davening, and in English we call it prayer. But in Hebrew, the word is tefillah. Tefillah, it's actually interesting. If anybody wants to know what's the source and the meaning of the word tefillah, so one is, tefillah comes from the term of cementing. We have this word cementing a jug. That's the word in the Talmud. We have a source here. He brings it in the text here. He says, atofel kli cheres, that one who glues an earthenware vessel. Okay? And what would that mean in prayer? Why are we calling prayer cementing? Why does it make any sense? Let's go back to the root of the word. Because you're cementing a relationship with the divine. So the point of prayer is for you to cement and bond and connect with the divine, connect with Hashem. Cementing a relationship with the divine. And that's through meditation, that you meditate to Hashem, about Hashem and to Hashem in order to create that relationship. Another word, tefillah, by the way, there's another second word to tefillah, and that is from the word ufilulo. Tefillah, the root word is ufilulo, and that means judgment. It says in the book of Samuel, if one commits a crime against another, he will be judged by God. Here it means to judge yourself. You sit and pray, and one is to judge themselves, meaning to see how are they acting as they should. So again, it's another form of meditation, either meditating about Hashem or meditating about into ourselves, introspection, being introspective in trying to understand about who we are, where we're holding. So again, we have prayer as a real sense of meditation. So far we have Abraham, as far back dating as Abraham and the forefathers would meditate when they would watch the sheep. And then we also have here that prayer in Judaism is a very strong element of meditation that's involved. We also see, let's share another text where we see that prayer, text 2, you should have it in your book, text number 2. We must approach prayer with reverence. Talks about in the Mishnah, right? We must approach prayer with reverence. The early pious sages would pause in thought for 1 hour so that they could focus their hearts on God and only then pray. They would come to shul. They would come to shul an hour before the prayer time took place, and they would sit in the shul and they would meditate. So we have here another clear source, the Mishnah written 1700 years ago, and he describes to us this scene of the correct prayer at 1600 years ago, how the rabbis ordained the idea of prayer. And they would sit for an hour and they would meditate and focus their hearts on Hashem, and only then would they pray. So it sounds very profound. We see Judaism was, imagine then, and then they would just start davening, and davening is also meditation. Praying is also meditation. So here you are, they're meditating an hour before they prayed. Then they pray for an hour. And actually it says they would meditate, not here, but it says in another text, they would meditate for an hour after they finished davening. So you want to tell me that meditation is new, and by Judaism it's foreign? 100% not. We see it very clearly that focusing and meditating and thinking and going deep, whether it is to judge ourselves or whether it's to connect to Hashem, was and is a very fundamental part of Judaism. Just to start off to see how it's in Judaism. Now, an interesting question you might ask, and it tells you here, if you go to Appendix A, to the back of the book, what is one supposed to meditate before they pray? You might ask that question, and I thought that would be a very good, interesting thing to study in our class. So if you go to the back of your book, page 49, text number 12, we'll have three opinions of the great scholars who discussed the Mishnah that just said that you're supposed to meditate for an hour before prayer. What does that meditation look like? What is that meditation supposed to be? And we'll share with you the three different opinions, and they're fascinating and very different. Maybe different people would enjoy or evaluate what are we thinking about before we daven. We come to the shul. What do those people think about for an hour before they start to pray? What are they meditating on? What are they thinking about? So text 12, first opinion, that's the opinion of the famous Maimonides, the Rambam. The Maimonides explains this mission, and he says, the meaning of shoyhin, they would waiting, that they would wait in shul an hour before. They would pause for an hour before prayer in order, what would they do in the shul? To calm their minds and quiet their thoughts. I guess, you're busy running around, you're joking or doing business or something like that. And only then would they begin to pray. So their meditation, according to the Rambam, according to Maimonides, looked like a moment of, just clearing your mind, clearing your head, clearing your mind, allowing yourself space to leave everything behind and move on to a quiet space. And that is what their hour of meditation looked like. That is the opinion of Maimonides. However, there is another opinion. Rabbeinu Yoina, also a very, very famous scholar who lived in the 12th century. He writes, and he quotes Maimonides, and he disagrees with him. He says, some explain that they would pause to remove mental distractions for the sake of concentrating on reciting their prayers to the exclusion of all other concerns. That's why some people want to explain this Mishnah, that's what they did in the hour. However, he says, I disagree. If that were the case, the Mishnah would have said, focus their hearts on their prayers instead of focus their hearts on God. It should have just said, they need to focus on their prayers. So they need a time, they need an hour beforehand to get rid of all other thoughts in their minds. So he says, no, I don't think then it would have said they need to focus their hearts on the prayers, but it doesn't say that. It says focus their heart on God. So Rabbeinu Yoina, the great Rabbeinu Yoina, says, I explained that this is what they would do for that hour. Rather, the meaning is that intended for their hearts, the meaning is that they intended for their hearts to be wholesome in the service of God by eradicating, it's very interesting what he says, what the meditation was, any vestige of corporal or material desires from their hearts. By emptying their hearts from the fleeting pleasures and benefits of the world, material world, and focus on the greatness of God to the exclusion of all material existence. Their prayers would be worthy and accepted by God. It's beautiful. What does that mean? You're in life, you're all caught up in materialism, and you're thinking in your conscious mind all about materialistic ideas. She says, no, you don't want to start praying and have the same mindset as you had in your regular day life. You're going to talk about Hashem. You're going to think of, whatever you were thinking about till now, and you're going to apply God to your normal stance. You need an hour to come to shul before, or maybe if you don't have an hour, maybe a little bit of less time, and you need to be able to just shift your focus, have a shift in your perspective on everything, your way your brain is thinking about everything in the world, and not think of God as physically, right? Not the material world. And you must think about the greatness of Hashem to the exclusion of all material existence, and eradicate any vestige of corporal or material desires from the heart. Get rid of that. Forget about what you were dealing with and what you were thinking about. Your meditation needs to remove yourself from that very materialistic mindset and move into a much greater and a spiritual mindset. Very interesting. And that is the opinion of Rabbeinu Yoina. So far, we have the opinion of the Rambam, of Maimonides. Maimonides said that the point of prayer is to calm your mind. And Rabbeinu Yoina says that the point of prayer is to allow you the moment of time to remove yourself from your mundane perspectives and allow Hashem to become something more spiritual, more greater than everything that you're dealing with on a regular basis. And we're going to bring one more interesting opinion. He has a third opinion. Rabbi Elazar Hazikri on text number 14. And here's what he wrote. We have been taught that the early pious sages would pause in thought for 1 hour so that they could focus their hearts on God and only then pray. They would cease studying. They would stop studying. They would spend an hour of meditation and strive to meditate and cleave to God. What would they do? He describes it. They would picture the light of God's presence, the Shekhinah above their heads, as if it were spreading all around them until they were sitting within the light. So like Hashem exists, Hashem exists everywhere, and their existence is within Hashem existence, that Hashem is a tremendous light and a tremendous energy in the world. They would imagine, they would meditate that Hashem is this unbelievable existence, and they're kind of existing within this tremendous light and this tremendous power of Hashem. So here you go. Very interesting. Let's go back. Let's just go back to where we were holding in our class, and then we'll come back to here. We'll come back to this later on. So let's go back to our original text. We were holding text number 2, and we learned from the Mishnah. The Mishnah says that before davening, they would meditate for an hour, and we just gave you a description of 3 commentaries explaining what are those meditations that people would do before the prayer would start. Very interesting, very, very interesting. There you go, a little bit of a taste of what the commentaries explain, or what should meditate on before the prayer. Now we're going to ask you a question, and the question that we want to ask you is, what would you guys say? Who can share with us? It's on page 6. Can you think of several ways in which meditation might advance Jewish goals? How could meditation help us become better people, connect to Hashem? What can we use meditation for in order to be better Jews? Who can share? Maybe do you have some ideas? Maybe people thought of it in the class. How can we use meditation in our life to be a better person, to be a better Jew? What aspects in our life could meditation help? I mean, it's a very basic question, I think. Just some obvious answers that people might have. Yeah.
Taking time out and being yourself.
Getting people to be more in the present, right? That's a big one. That's a very big one. People in life have a very hard time being in the present. They're always thinking about a different place, a different time. You're never there. So many people use meditation, correct, very good, to help you live in the present, like breathing meditations and so on. We're actually going to mention it later on in the class, but that is a very good one, Shlomo. Any other suggestions or ideas? How could meditation help? Yes, Nicole.
I feel like it helps me when life is so busy. It helps to slow down your thoughts, but not slow it down where you're not thinking. Slow it down to bring God into the present and kind of give meaning to whatever's going on. It could be something overwhelming, and you need just focus. Or I just feel like it helps bring God into moments when you feel like your mind is just racing.
So very good. So connecting with Hashem, like meditation could be a way to connect to God. So you think you're busy running around after the kids or busy at work or whatever, so on. Meditating could stop and allow overwhelmed. So that's another very good one. It's maybe people won't be as overwhelmed, right? That's a very good one. Very good. Thank you, Nicole. Okay, so we have so far not being overwhelmed, being more present, connecting to Hashem. Yes, Gary, Helene.
I was going to say a contrary opinion. Maybe when you meditate, you don't think about the present, and you can focus in on thinking about the past and the future.
Right, that's a good one. So it depends what you call present. So let's say someone has issues or challenges they're dealing with, maybe letting go of the challenges by focusing on something that's deeper, something that's greater. Or you're even saying past. If you focus on the past, and maybe you mean like, but how would that help? So in what way would past and future help? Or you're just saying another opinion? The question here is, how could meditation help Jewish goals? You're muted, Gary. I'm trying to read your lips, but it's not working so well. Yeah.
You have to understand your past so you don't make the same mistakes again.
Right. Yeah. If someone will think about and really internalize, you're saying, the message of the past, then people won't make the future mistakes again. Is that meditation? I guess so. I guess we could call that meditation on the past. Yeah. Okay. That's a good one. Thank you, Gary. Very good. Anyone else? Anyone else want to jump in? Lana?
So if you meditate on the oneness of God, then the more you do that, the more you will want to observe the mitzvahs and study, because you're going to try to connect to to God. So meditating on that, I think, would help.
I would say, like, in a way, I'm just thinking what you're saying, like meditating, like there's the reality, what's in front of us, and then really Hashem is a reality, but sometimes you don't feel it physically in front of you. So by meditating on Hashem, it'll help you get there and help you have that connection to Hashem, which might not be so evident like a hamburger or something. You might not be able to instantly notice the gratification and the pleasure of it, and therefore meditation would help you reach out to the divine in a much more spiritual way. Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Lana, Nicole, and Shlomo here for all sharing. Let us move on. Yeah.
Okay. No, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I mean, I was actually surprised at this because I've taken yoga in the past, and one of the things they tell you to do is clear your mind so you can just focus, and it has nothing to do with past, presence, or anything. It just says clear your mind so that you can actually open yourself up to relaxing and finding yourself. So, and just like this says, leave the kids behind, leave everything else behind. So I thought that was interesting because it sounds like they took it right from the Jewish Bible about meditation. They borrowed everything from the Jewish Bible, it looks like.
Well, we brought the source. We brought the source, how meditation came from far back as there. Yeah, very true.
Right.
All right, let's move on. I want to move on to the next slide here. And we have 3 categories of meditation, okay? I kind of mentioned it already before in the note, but I want to go over the three kinds of meditation. What he wants to call here foreign, and then neutral, and organically Jewish. There's 3 kinds of meditation. What would be foreign? As I mentioned before, that there are many Eastern meditations that are idolatry, that come from idolatry. And that could be a problem for a Jew to be studying idol worship, to learning meditations and saying names, or even if it's maybe not straight out idolatry, but that could be a problem. Then the next category we have in meditations is neutral, which means it has nothing to do with any kind of idolatry. It could be for medical and health benefits. Now, those meditations might be used by idolaters, but that doesn't make it a problem to use things that idolaters are using. So there's a discussion, by the way, it's an interesting discussion about the neutral meditations. But then, and what our class will study is organically Jewish. We are going to talk about the meditations that come from Torah, right? We're coming to a Jewish class. We're not studying here meditations. Of course, we're not studying foreign meditations. And this class is not even based on neutral meditations. But obviously, if JLI is going to write a course on meditations, we're going to learn specifically in our course about what it means to have Jewish meditation. So just a disclaimer or a fact, or it's obviously obvious to everyone, what we're going to learn in our class is the Jewish source, Jewish meditations that we're going to learn over the next couple of weeks. Here are 3 words. I'm going to bring it up on the screen for different kind of meditations. One word that's used in Torah is called hisbodedut. It's called seclusion. That's one form of meditation. And that style is transcendence meditation. It focuses on transcendence. I mean, we're not going to really talk about it now. I'm just going to share with you the words. We have another one called hisbonenut, which is contemplation, which is contemplative meditation. So there's, I guess, a meditation which could bring you to transcendence. And then there's a meditation which you contemplate an idea and it connects and becomes part of your life. It's you think about something that exists, I guess, within the world. We'll discuss that at another time. And then we have something called kavana. Kavana is more on focus. And they're mindfulness, mindful awareness, or intention, meditation. It's focus and it's mindfulness, maybe like focusing on the current moment. But we see all these 3 words throughout Judaism about these 3 different kinds of meditation. And throughout the next 6 weeks, we're going to focus on these 3 different source meditations, which are brought up in a number of areas in Judaism. So we're going to have transcendence meditation, we're going to have contemplative meditation, and we're also going to have mindfulness or intention meditation. Those are going to be the focus. Let's go over, I think it's pretty cool, what are we going to learn in the next 6 weeks? Okay, over the next 6 weeks, let us go over the different topics that we're going to have. First week today, what we're going to discuss in our course is that the mind is in control. That's really what we're going to focus on today, which is a very important part of meditation. And that is some tools to help you overcome negative feelings and negative feelings and emotions. People have unhealthy, negative feelings, for whatever reason, and help you to create. We're going to talk a little bit about and create positive kavana instead, which is a focus. We're going to learn about focus, mind and control, and also focus in the first lesson, which we're going to talk about today. The next week's course is about, we're going to learn about spirituality. We're going to explore the meaning of when we say these things are spirituality, and how meditation can be a tool. And this will be hisbonenus, which is the second level that I brought up before, which is contemplation that I brought up before. Then in lesson number 3, we're going to learn about the idea of living in the moment. So one is mind and control. Number 2 is living in the moment. Let me bring up all 3 here. So do you mind? That means mind and control, that your mind is in control. Mind yourself, which is exploring spirituality and how meditation can be an experience, which is we call hisbonenut, which is contemplation. Then lesson 3, mastermind, is going to be about living in the moment, being fully present. Lesson 4 is mind your time, is living life with purpose and meaning. So that's what that class will focus on. Lesson number 5, which is calling here mind your business, which is how mitzvahs, the action, can also be useful to serve Hashem. In other words, the actions can also work backwards and affect the way your mind works. So action also goes backwards and helps affect the mind too. And finally, in lesson 6, that was lesson 6, mind your matter. That I mixed it up. That was lesson 6. Lesson 5 was how to bring in mind your business is about creating a relationship with God, and how mitzvahs, creating a relationship with God and how that could lead to joy. That will be what lesson 5, how to bring joy into your life. So those are, we'll get to it throughout the weeks, and that's what the class will be about. Now, we're going to look at the screen in a moment about the, you see the famous Chachma Bina Das, the Kabbalistic map of the 10 energies in the world. But let me explain a few things before we get to this map over here.
Spells out Chabad.
Correct. Chachma Bina Das spells out Chabad. Very good. Right. Okay. Now, in Judaism, when we talk about meditation, the goal usually is to connect to Hashem. Our goal in meditating is really a way to connect to Hashem. That's the main purpose of the Jewish thoughts and meditation, is that we want to connect to Hashem. But as we know, it also has a lot of side benefits. It doesn't mean just because the goal is to connect to Hashem, it doesn't mean that there's a lot of side benefits, health benefits to this meditation too. And we're going to ask you now in exercise 1.3, you'll see it on your page, in page number 7, is that you should record a negative experience that you had in the past month. Something that happened to you in the past month. Some people might say, this is easy. I have one every day. What is a record? Write it down for yourself. A negative experience that you had in the past month. And then describe the personal impact that resulted from the negative feeling this experience created. So everyone should think to themselves of such an example. And what happens is that you basically have a negative experience, and now that negative experience that you had continuously plays itself out in your mind because you're thinking about it constantly after it took place. So this thing happens, and you are now dealing with the outcomes and the after effects of that experience. So do people have something? Does anyone want to share? Oh, we don't need them. Maybe it's too much for people to share. So the question is, how do we get out whatever that experience was and the negative feeling that you had? Did you guys think of something? Thought of an example of a negative experience with a, write it down for yourself. You can make in notes even, so no one knows what it is that you wrote. But think about it and think about the impact that resulted from that the negative feelings that you experienced that were created. I don't know what's coming to mind. That didn't happen to me specifically, but you know, when you lost trust in somebody, I don't know. Example that happened. I'll tell you something that happened. Somebody was called for minyan to be number 10. And they had to wait a half hour for that minyan to come. They came to shul. They were told that they were number 10, and the minyan didn't come for a half hour. So the next time they wanted to call the guy for minyan again, he was very angry. He said, "Don't call me until you have actually 10 in the room." So the point, what's the point? Is that the negative experience, and the person was very upset, created feelings, you know, that maybe they'll be angry or they become less trustful, whatever the experience you have definitely creates negative feelings. You know, you don't trust somebody after that or so on. You know, if someone screams, all of a sudden you might be scared of that person or whatever, and those negative thoughts are replaying in your mind constantly, and you're emotionally affected by it, mentally affected by it. So today's class, the question is there a way to, how can meditation help us? Is there a way to counterbalance that? And can we control it? Are we really in control? First of all, is it possible to stop those thoughts? So now I had that experience. I don't know if it has to be real trauma even, but I had that experience. And now my mind is racing and my heart is racing. Is there a way for me to bring it to a stop? What does Torah say about that? Does Torah say it could be stopped or not? Right? Because our class today is going to deal with how to stop negative feelings. So who says that it could be stopped? So what he says was that we want to know what the Torah says. So the Torah, so this class is based off the Torah perspective. So he brings you an interesting text in text number 3 from the 5th book of the Chumash, the 5th book, the book of Deuteronomy, the book of Devarim. Let's see text number 3, what he says. As you approach the battle, the Kohen shall come near and speak to the people. Kohen gets up in front of his job. He is the motivator. Gets up in front of the nation and he says to them, "Hear Israel, today you're approaching the battle against your enemies. Do not be discouraged. Do not be afraid. Do not be alarmed or terrified because of them." He's giving a very passionate, powerful, energetic speech, and his job was to encourage them. Now, obviously, if the Torah is saying that people are going to war, which it's logical, obviously, that people are afraid, could lose their life, God forbid. And they're standing up there and there's encouraging. It's not just saying words, but the Torah believes that there is an extent that a human being, a person can be in control of their emotions and in control of their thoughts. So the Torah, and if at a war, when people are scared, the Kohen gets up and tries to encourage everyone not to be afraid. Perhaps in our smaller areas of our life, which we have our experiences that are leading to challenges, negative feelings, from the experience that created, for sure we could control it. So the Torah obviously believes, he brings you an extreme case in text number 3, where we believe in the Torah that you could get your emotions in check and you could get your feelings in check. And the proof that the class wants to bring is from the famous story of the Kohen. We get up by a war and we tell everybody not to be afraid. So the question is how? How? What do we use? There's a question on text number, in page number 8. They have a question. List some of the methods you personally employ to overcome negative feelings and emotions. I wonder if people have any. What do you do? Does anyone have any secrets? This is a big one that they could share with the rest of us of what are methods that you use when you're having a hard time emotionally, when you're dealing with a challenge. What are some of the methods that you can use that you use when you're dealing with, when you're in a bad mind frame? Anyone have a solution? We'll come to Torah's solution in a moment and what we want to bring it in class, but perhaps someone here has a key that we can benefit from, or an idea how to do this. What do you do when you have a negative emotion overcoming negative feelings and emotions from an experience that you perhaps had.
One thing I do
Yeah.
is I write it down. I give it to two people that I trust. Then I
You write down what the emotion,
I write the
experience,
the experience and the negative emotion.
Okay.
All in one.
and what it's creating. Okay.
That's creating. I give it to two people that I trust. I'm not naming people, of course.
Okay.
I'm naming one institution, but then I rip it up privately and I give it to Hashem. I give it to God. I pray
Interesting.
afterward about God, please remove these negative attributes that I'm having right now.
Can people hear, by the way, on the Zoom, what Shlomo said? Can you guys hear?
Yes, yes, we can.
So Shlomo is saying that, right, Shlomo has a whole process, pretty cool. How he gives it to Hashem. He says, God, this is what I'm experiencing. This is what happened. This is what I'm feeling. Very in touch, obviously, with his emotions. And he says, I'm giving it over to you, and I'm done. It's pretty powerful. Yeah, very good. Thank you for showing that, Shlomo. Yes, Gary.
So number one,
Gary doesn't get emotionally angry, probably. No, I'm just kidding.
number one, I would focus on the good. I would focus on the good. Number two, I would separate facts from emotion, because when people get emotional, they're not always reasonable. And then number three, when you're dealing with other people, sometimes you have to put your foot in the other person's shoe and analyze the situation and see if you think they have any merit to what's ticking you off. And then you look for common reason is that you look for the middle ground so that you could make peace with other people. And I think that's a good way to handle negative emotions.
Let's start again, Gary. Sorry.
Start again.
Okay, three. Give me the three again.
Number one, focus on the good.
So in general in life, you say there's always good and bad, focus on the good, okay?
Number two, you need to separate emotion from reason. When people get emotional and they get angry, they're not always reasonable. And number three, I said, sometimes you have to put your foot in someone else's shoe and analyze the situation and try to figure out if there's any merit to the argument. And then you have to look for the common ground between people. If you want to make peace, usually you have to come to somewhere in the middle when you have negative interactions with others.
Very good. All right, thank you, Gary. That was a good life lesson right there from Gary Greenstein. Beautiful. Very, very good. I like that. Yes. Anybody else want to share how they get rid of what they do when they have negative emotions and try to overcome those negative emotions that they have? Okay.
Sometimes it's involved talking to a friend and get like venting, or also going for a walk or exercising just to get away, clear your head, get rid of the energy, the negative energy.
That's a good one. So and we're going to, I think that's going to be very good. We're going to be along those lines today, but basically leaving the situation and getting involved in something else, I think, right? So that is one way of kind of take the stress and move it on to exercise and running and working out would be a very good way, another good way to get it. What was the first thing you said, Taryn?
Calling a friend or close trusted one to vent.
Very good. All right, very interesting. Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Are you okay? Yeah. Okay. So, all right, figure 1-3. So now let's go on to the Hasidic approach, the Tanya approach. To thank you everyone for that. That was very beautiful, very profound, and we have a lot to learn. But that was very powerful. Everybody's going through these emotions, and we're all trying to work through it. And that's why I guess many of us are here actually. So hopefully this class and this idea which we're going to share today will bring benefit. But we're going to, as we do in Hasidic philosophy, we're very organized, and we're going to create a building. So we have to start from the top and share with you the Tanya approach to dealing with negative emotions. So on our screen, you can see over here that we have what we call, in the pink, it's called Chachma, Bina, and Das. Let's just, always fun and exciting to show this Kabbalistic map here and give the basics to the 10 attributes that the world is made through. So let me actually explain why we even have 10 attributes. Hashem, who's infinite, wanted to create the world in a limited finite energy, which we're not going to get into why now today, but wanted to create the world in a limited finite energy. So Hashem used the 10 energies, the 10 spheros, and that are limited, and created the world through them, through these 10 spheros, these 10 energies. Hashem used them to create the world. So now that there's kind of a limited energy going into the world will be a limited world based on these 10 energies. So what do we have here? We have, in the way Hashem created the world, we have the pink, the top three are Chochmah, Bina, and Das, are wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, their intellectual capacities, or a conception, a concept of idea, comprehension, and then you comprehend the idea, and then that application, Das, you apply the idea. And from those three intellects come down into emotions. So the soul, this is the basis of the soul, the basis of the world and the basis of the soul, is that it has the three levels of intellect, and then it has the 7 emotions, chesed, gevura, tiferes, netzach, chod, yesod, malchus, kindness, severity, beauty, whatever it is, all the different 7 emotions that are born and come out from the conception, the intellect, the conception, comprehension, and application of the intellect. They will bring out emotions that will be born based on the mind. So we have God gave us an ability also in mind to be objectively thinking, and those thoughts are going to create the feelings that we feel about everything in life. So how we look at things will determine how we feel about things. So depending on, like you could have a paradigm shift, and that could also change very much how your emotion is about things. The famous book, Jay Lai wrote it a while ago, this famous book called Stephen Covey wrote, 7 highly effective, habits of highly effective people. He writes here a story that there was a guy who was with his kids in a train, and the kids were trashing the train, and everybody was getting nervous at the father with the kids. And one guy finally goes over to the father and says, "What's wrong with you? Why don't you put your kids in place?" And the guy said, "Oh, we're just coming from the kid's mother's funeral." So he's having a hard time controlling them, and everybody had a paradigm shift. They realized they looked at things differently. So the way we view the world, the way we view things in the world, the way our Chochmah, Bina, and Das is, our intellect is, the way we view other people will directly affect, it's the root of the emotion that a person has. Let's see text number 4. We're bringing this idea in Tanya. Let's see, actually, I think there's another slide here. Let me see if I can get to it. So intellect is the top, and then the top 3, and then it moves on, that creates emotion. So when the mind understands, the emotions flow. So that's how it works. So how you look at things in life, that is Chabad philosophy, that the mind controls the heart, basically. The mind creates the emotions that the person has. Text number 4. The human soul is divided into 2 categories. The soul is made up of intelligence and emotion. The intellectual faculties, namely Chachma, which is wisdom, Bina is understanding, and Das is knowledge, are referred to as the mothers and the source of the emotions, for the emotions are the offspring of the intelligence. So the emotions come from the intelligence. That is the basis for the soul. Now, as we continue to learn the basics of Tanya, the basics of Hasidic philosophy, that's very nice that the soul has this capacity. It has intellect and emotions. But that is who the soul is. That's not how the soul reveals itself in the body. How does the soul express itself within our body? And that it has to use 3 main avenues, 3 main ways the soul communicates using our body to the world. And what does it do? 3 main ways, and those are thinking. It uses our thinking brain that thinks. So the soul will express itself in our body through the fact that we think. Or it could also be through speaking. We do a lot of speaking in life, and having a relationship with other people. The soul will express itself through our body using the skill, the tool of speaking. And finally, doing action, you'll do things for people, and that's how you will work with the world. You can steal, you can punch somebody, you can give somebody a hug. So there are 3 avenues, there are 3 ways that the soul does express itself, the 10 characteristics, the 10 energies of the soul expresses itself in the body, it has to be through one of these three methods. Is the way the soul kind of, it's almost like the body is the clothing to the soul. It's the interface, but it's the clothing to the soul. The soul is wearing the body. So it's either wearing the brain and it's thinking, or it's wearing the mouth and it's speaking, or it's doing the action. It's a physical body that's eating or whatever else it's doing. The soul expresses itself through the body. Now, here's what we want to say. That what are you in control of? Can you control, can you change the 10 energies of the soul? Do you have the ability to control that? Not the thinking, speaking, and doing. Do you have the ability to control the wisdom, understanding, and knowledge and the emotions of the soul? Does one have the ability to go that deep into the psyche of the neshama of the soul and say, let me try to change that? What do you guys think? Can you change that or not?
I think yes. It takes work and time.
So you guys are right, but it's very hard. It's very, very hard. Siddha says, Tanya says that you're right. You guys are all right. Very good. You could change that, but you're in for a very long life. That's perhaps like a life goal, and maybe to shift it a little bit, maybe to try and figure out how to heal and to. In other words, it's almost like the basis of who you are. So if you're going to try and work that deep or that powerful energy of the neshama, it's almost like you were programmed in that way. So changing the root program of the person, it's a very fascinating topic, which is discussed at length in Tanya, but it's going to be very hard for you, a very lifelong goal and a very difficult challenge for one to be able to shift that. However, we have good news for you. The thinking part of the person, speaking and doing, but we want to focus on the thinking, you have a pretty easy time controlling the thinking part of the person. So let's go. There's a video here. Let me play the video. I didn't even watch it before, but let's play this video explaining some of the stuff that we just spoke about. Hang on one second. Let me share it. Let me find it here. Where is it? It's in here. Hold on. There we go. Which video is that? 1 second. Sorry, guys. I think this is it. Hopefully this is the right one. If not, we'll watch this video a little early, which we'll need it later, but let's watch it now. Hopefully this is the right one. Is that? Sorry. Can you guys see the video? Hang on. Let me make sure we can see it.
Not yet. It's still on the video. You haven't opened it up yet. It says video lost, displacing negative thoughts, but the video is not on yet.
How do I make this part screen?
Thoughts produce feelings. Therefore, even a microsecond of thought in any situation produces an emotion. If we have negative emotions, we can simply displace them by replacing them with a new thought.
No, it shut off.
Process.
It was on for a second and it shut off.
Meditation to try to carry out that particular function. So gently close your eyes.
Can you see it, Aline?
No.
Just
still
become
just-
aware.
Audio we have.
We have the audio, but not the video.
Okay, one more time.
Does anyone else have it? Because we don't have it.
No, you probably no one has it. One second, one more time. I don't know why it's not allowing me to share it. Hopefully now we'll get it. Here we go. Can you see it?
Now it is, yeah. Okay.
Okay, Baruch Hashem.
Thoughts produce feelings. Therefore, even a microsecond of thought in any situation produces an emotion. If we have negative emotions, we can simply displace them by replacing them with a new thought. Not a difficult process, and let me share with you a meditation to try to carry out that particular function. So gently close your eyes and just become aware of the flow of your thoughts. What thoughts are flowing through onto the screen of your consciousness? And as you become aware of the thought, see if you can identify a feeling that arises as a consequence of that thought. I would like you to take yourself back to a moment, to a time when you might have been embarrassed, a situation of personal embarrassment. Try to locate that particular incident, refreshing it in your mind. Note all the points that cause the embarrassment. Become aware of the people who are present. And become acutely aware of your feelings of embarrassment at that time. And now, let's switch that thought. I want you to think back to a moment when you were supremely happy, ecstatic, somewhere in your life where you felt absolute joy. Recall that moment. Where were you? Who was there? Can you recall the voices, the colors, the background sounds? And now consider, where did that image of embarrassment of a few moments ago disappear? The feelings went away because new thoughts were brought into the consciousness of your mind. Let's try that again. Now think back to a time where you hurt yourself physically, maybe injured yourself, sprained an ankle. Take yourself back there and feel the pain. Simulate it. Recognize how you felt. Even complex feelings beyond the pain, consequences. And now turn your mind to a birthday party in your honor that you may have experienced as a child, as an adult. What is going on at the party? Who is there? Singing. Maybe a cake. Maybe candles. How do you feel? That same happiness has been recreated. What happened to that feeling of hurt and pain of a few moments ago when you hurt yourself back then? You changed your thoughts, and therefore your feelings changed. Let's learn an important lesson. Moach shalit al halev. The mind determines the outcomes of the emotions. Change your mind, and you change your feelings. When feeling down, depressed, change your thoughts. And in so doing, your whole emotional makeup transforms in the same moment.
Okay. Right. So to understand this, I hope you enjoyed that video. To understand this intellectually, going to back where we started from, what I was speaking about is that to try and change the your makeup of your intellect and emotions would be a very, very difficult challenge. You might not be able to control it, but what the Alter Rebbe wants to teach you in Tanya is that you are fully in control of your thoughts. The tool that it's using to hold on, sorry guys, 1 second. The tool it's using to think, to operate, to power the soul. It's using your thoughts. And for you to choose if you want to think about it or not, that is fairly easy for you to do. So to try and change that it shouldn't think like that or shouldn't feel like that anymore, in other words, the source of it might be hard. But for you to focus on what do I want to think about now or not, that is really up to the person, that's really up to the human being. And that you have much more control over. Let's see, hang on 1 second. Let me go to back into the slideshow. Where were we over here? I just got to go forward to our current slide. Okay, so we had the intellect and the emotions. And when your emotions flow from your intellect, but thinking, speaking, and doing, the way this soul does express itself in the body and use the body as its tool, you do have control over that, and therefore you can you could control that. You could control your understanding. It's a garment, and by you controlling under you could by controlling your thoughts, you're able to have control over what thoughts you want to think about, and that will have a tremendous, that you could control, and that will have tremendous impact on the person. Let's see text number 5, where the Alter Rebbe says this in Tanya. The mind naturally controls the heart. Humans were created from birth with the ability to exercise willpower, to control the drives of our heart so that they not be expressed in our behavior, speech, or thought. We're able to divert our attention completely from things our hearts crave to something else different, to something entirely different. So you have the ability to the garment part of your body. That is the thoughts that you have. You do have control to say, I want to think about it or I don't want to think about it. That is really up to the person. He says here that studies have shown that people think 6,000 thoughts a day. There's actually seems to be like there's a study out there that people think 70,000 thoughts a day, but I guess in the note here, he says they couldn't find the source for that, where to that extreme, but that people's minds are always thinking, our brains are always moving, our brains are always thinking, and the average person has more than 6,000 thoughts a day. So our mind is constantly thinking. But what he wants to argue today is, what he wants to say, what the Alter Rebbe is saying in Tanya, is that life doesn't have to be that our minds just are in a free fall and thinking about whatever they want to think about. The human being has the ability to control what thoughts he wants to think about. He's able to choose and decide, right now I want to think about something else. I can think about something else. I'm able to switch the channel in my brain and think about something else if I would like to. Let's see text number 6 from a text by the great Tzemach Tzedek, where he says that our mind, we are really in control of our mind and have the ability to think about what it is that we want to think about. Let's text number 6. Even if we are emotionally afraid, we are able to divorce our thought, speech, and action from the emotion. Don't speak about it. You're going to sit and talk about it, you're going to be more afraid. And don't think about it. The essential thing is not to contemplate or discuss the fear at all, but to do the perfect opposite. Immediately upon letting go of the thought entirely, the fear will dissolve on its own. At the very least, it will become instantly dormant and not felt in the body. Then over the course of several days, it will completely dissolve to the point that it will not enter our mind at all. So sometimes thinking about something, and keeping on to think about it and grind over it and to think about it, you're basically meditating on something that's causing you fear. Immediately, removal of the thought leads to dissipation of the fear, because emotions are entirely reliant upon intellectual focused tasks for their existence. So the emotions need the intellect in order to energize them, which requires active thought. Therefore, by removing our thought from the matter, the intellectual paradas is withdrawn from the emotion, with the result that the emotion ceases to be activated.
You're not supposed to talk about it? I was always taught to talk about it.
Right. So it's a little different. It's a little different in that sometimes I think it's maybe good to have a set time to think about it. We learned this actually in Tanya today. It could be that there is sometimes it's good to have a time, you take care of it, but then you move on. Right after that, you stop thinking about it afterwards. It's not something that's good. Okay, I feel, I mentioned this actually in my class today. So sometimes they tell this to parents with kids who have anxiety, that we're going to have anxiety time. So you know what, we're going to, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, everything's going to stop, and we're going to share all the things that we're worried about. Okay, but the rest of the day, don't think about it anymore, because the rest of the day, you're going to sit and think about it. It's going to drive you crazy. It's going to affect your emotions. So maybe what you're doing, you're saying is, okay, I'm going to have the conversation with my friend, but then I'm doing the conversation to finish, to wrap it up, put it in a box, give it to Hashem, as you said before, and then be done with it. Removal of the thought leads to dissipation of the fear because emotions are entirely reliant upon the intellectual focus for their existence, which requires active thought. Therefore, by removing our thought from the matter, intellectual paradox is withdrawn from the emotion, with the result that the emotion ceases to be activated. It is worth training yourself to remove all negativity, for we must rid ourselves from all fear, including justifiable fear. He's writing very powerful in this letter to someone who is very anxious about something. As I wrote, this is certainly true in your case, where there is nothing to worry about whatsoever, and God in terms of your health and financial situation. So maybe many times in life we're spinning our wheels, we're afraid of things, which probably 99% I find in life. Most of the things that I'm afraid of are not real, and I'm not afraid of the things that I should be afraid of, that the real problems that are coming down the road, I'm not even afraid of. So it's not helping. The statistics of the things that I'm afraid of that's going to happen hasn't happened, and all the things that happen are exactly what I wasn't afraid of. So what he's saying is that you cannot control the makeup of your soul, but you could control the garment of thought, which won't give any room for the thoughts to be processing the intellect, following into the emotions, and then having yourself go crazy by the emotions that you have. So we are in control of our mind controls our hearts, and we are in control of our thoughts, and we are able to control what we want to think about, and that will help us tremendously getting rid of a lot of the anxiety or whatever it is that's bothering us. Is a step is not to think about it. Now, one of the ways is distractions. Let's move on. It's very good sometimes, as you mentioned, I believe in the video, that your brain is always working. So you need something else to think about. By the way, a lot of times the problems happen when people are bored because their brain has nothing important to think about. People that are working and busy, they don't have time to they have less issues. Sometimes could be. Because they don't have time to think about all these things. What does that guy think about me, or what did I say to him? When you have time on your hands, it could lead, so then you have to be busy. You have to keep your mind full of thoughts, because if not, your brain is going to keep on thinking, and it might think about unhealthy things. And then, since the brain is thinking about unhealthy things, your emotions will follow whatever your brain is thinking about. Like an example he says is, imagine somebody's, today with technology, I like this example. He didn't say this here, but like technology, we're so crazy because there's so much going on, and it's making our brain think all kinds of things. But what's also good about technology? You can always hang up the phone. It's very easy today to shut it off also. Like imagine someone's on the phone driving you crazy, making you feel very hurt. There's a very simple solution. You just hang up the phone. You move on and say, I don't want to think about this anymore. So that's really in your choice. You can either listen on the phone and keep on dealing with it's a very not nice person who's giving you very bad energy, very bad emotions, or you could hang up the phone. And that's what our brain is. Our brain is, do I want to think about it or do I not want to think about it? It's really up to us. But your brain is always thinking, so you need to have a distraction. Let's see in text 7, where he says this point that you can't just say, I'm not going to think about nothing. You have to have somewhere where you want to go and something you want to think about, because your brain is thinking and it will keep on thinking about that. So go somewhere healthy and good, which you can think about the healthy and positive things in order to bring your brain back, which will bring your heart and your emotions back to a good place. Text 7. The primary method of removing worrying thoughts from your mind is by redirecting your mind towards other matters. You can place them with thoughts of necessary material matters that bring you joy, and can contemplate God's Torah that delights the heart. The latter is best achieved through creating a fixed schedule of daily Torah study, which is particularly effective with a study partner. We have a class, for example, every day. It's the most therapeutic thing that we have, because we sit together and we study Torah every day on Zoom at 12 o'clock. We study the Tanya every day, and we study the Chumash every day, just from an healthy emotional standpoint. It's beautiful. We drop everything we're doing, all the garbage and all the negativity or all kinds of stresses that we have, and we leave it alone and we sit and study Torah for an hour, for a half hour to an hour. So here he's saying Torah is the best way, but there can be other ways too that a person might have a place or something. When you're saying calling up the friend, it's probably good. Call up the friend and then get it out, finish it. But then maybe the friend could be very helpful in talking about something else. Call up somebody who you like when you're down in the dumps, or like Taryn had said before about exercising. I find it very powerful because you're shifting and now you're focusing on something else. You put music in, maybe music is something that's good. If you put in good music and you go, when I do a nice run around the block around my house, I feel very good after that takes place. So that would be I know a lot of times, by the way, I'll tell you what I think happens. A lot, like people that come to like the daily class that I have going on, when they have something negative going on in their life, they'll say, Rabbi, I can't join. But according to our class, and that's what I'm thinking, it's actually the opposite. If you're in a negative down in the dumps, that means you need to join. That means you need to get out. Like a lot of times when you're depressed, right? You don't want to see people, and then the depression continues. But exactly then, that's where you need to push yourself to go to a friend, go do something else, go to a positive place, go intellectually to your brain, something to stimulate your brain in a positive way. And of course, Torah is a very beautiful place intellectually to be, and then you'll move on to become also emotions will follow that intellectual standing. Now we're going to go deeper. So that is, I think, very logical. This is very basic, standard ideas, but important. We should discuss this. We need to discuss this. Is that it's not judgment. So I think there's two ways to look at it. Let's go back. Let me show you this first thing, this slide here. Oh, let me move on. Here's the positive thoughts, the Torah thoughts. It doesn't have that slide. If you look on figure 1.6 in your book, you see it says first thought, then judge, then you're judging based on your thought and understanding, and then the emotions follow through on that. The opposite is what we had, I believe we had earlier. It worked a little bit different. I don't know where it is right now. But the figure 1.6 is telling us on page 34 that you control your thoughts. And then based on your thoughts, that will create the understanding and judgments of whatever it is that you want to have in life. And you follow that up with emotions that will come out of that judgment. So you have to start with thought. Even though it's not the soul, it's not the root of the soul, but it has a lot to do with the soul, and it controls what the soul is into and what the soul is thinking about, the intellect of the soul is thinking about, which will then create the emotions, and you'll be a much happy, healthier person based on that. But now let's go a little deeper. Let's go spiritual. Let's take a little bit of a deeper dive in text number 8. We actually believe in Hasidic philosophy that not just do your thoughts change logically, as we've explained, in this logical manner, our intellect, which will change our emotion. We actually want to say that Torah believes that healthy thoughts will change the reality. How crazy is that? It will actually affect and it change the reality around you in a very simple way. And it's really not simple. It's much deeper than this. But imagine when you give out positive vibes, everyone around you is going to be positive vibes and everyone's going to be nice to you. Like one of the things is, I don't know why I didn't get this as a kid. When you're younger, if you're nice to, you want to have friends, just be a friend. If you're a friend, you'll have friends. You want to have a friend, be a friend. It's very simple. Whatever you give out, that's what's going to exist. So when you're a person who walks around with positive thoughts, everyone around you is going to have positive thoughts because you're having positive thoughts. But it's much deeper than that. Let's see, a very beautiful idea that we're going to bring now in our last section of our class. Text number 8, on page 17. To the contrary, you should speak and act in a manner that projects positivity, as described above, so that these positive emotions will be established within you. First of all, you'll be established within you. In this way, a spirit of joy and good-heartedness will descend upon you from above. Right? The Rebbe is writing this to someone. I say this on the basis of a teaching I received from my holy grandfather of blessed memory, who shared an insight authored by Reb Dovber, the Maggid of Mezrich, town in Ukraine, into the verse, like a person's appearance upon it from above. The Maggid would read the verse this way. Listen to this point. According to the feelings a person displays down here in this world, which is the point of the verse, like a person's appearance, so is the nature of that which rests upon the person from above, meaning God. In light of this teaching, my grandfather, Reb Shneur Zalman of Liadi, the author of the Tanya, we read the text before, did not permit me to sing a melancholy tune during the evening prayer. After I had completed the prayer, he explained his reasoning for objecting to my choice of melody, and shared the above insight in the name of the Maggid of blessed memory, that what you place yourself down here, Hashem reflects that and acts upon the way you place it. So the spiritual law of attraction, let's learn about it. Very interesting. It's not just a new age theory, it's a spiritual science. Let me explain what we're trying to say over there. We learned in our class about the 10 spheros, right? The 10 energies that makes up the soul. The same 10 energies that make up your soul also make up the world. And as I explained, why did God put the 10 energies into the world? Because God is infinite. If God would create the world directly from infinite, then the world would be infinite. We wouldn't be human beings. We wouldn't be living in a finite world, in a limited world of people with different characters and different personalities. So God put into creation a finite number of experiences, of energies, which go down, which are 10, and each 10 consists of 10. So now we have 10 times 10, which is 100. And the world exists through that energy. And Hashem had to choose which energy of those 10 energies will he use to create the world. And he thought about it and he said, well, if I create too much kindness, the emotion of kindness, then the world won't be a healthy world. Kindness meaning unreasonable kindness, right? Giving your kids something you shouldn't get, like not teaching the person any discipline. If I give too much discipline and not have any kindness, then the world will be corrupt. Hashem said, I need to create a balance between the two. Look in text number 9. Look what the Medrash says. This is analogous to a king who had empty glasses. The king told himself, if I pour hot water into them, they will burst. If I pour freezing water into them, they will crack, right? Sometimes if you have a thin cup, it's too hot. It's happened to me before. Or too cold, it could crack or burst. What did the king do? He mixed hot water with frigid water and poured the blend into the glass. Similarly, God said, if I create the world with the attribute of compassion alone, one of those 10 attributes that we spoke about before, people will be unconcerned with the consequence of their action. There'll be no consequences. If I use the attribute of judgment alone, the world will not survive the judgment of honest scrutiny. Who's perfect enough? Rather, I will create it with a blend of the attribute of judgment and the attribute of compassion, and I hope that it will endure. Now, our souls are created with the same 10 energies that the world is created from. And how we align ourselves, that is the energy that we get in touch with Hashem creating of the world. In other words, it's not that it goes just from top down, that the 10 energies Hashem put inside the world, and then we come out of an offshoot from those 10 energies, or exist the 10 energies within our soul. But after we're created, the 10 energies above reflect our behavior down here in this world. Listen, look at text 10, very interesting. The Zohar says, come and observe. Our world is always ready to receive the spiritual flow that emanates from above. The upper world provides in accordance with the emotional state below in this world. Very interesting. The Zohar says that the state above is affected from the emotional state in this world. If the state below is joyous, then corresponding abundance flows from above. But if the state below is one of sadness, then corresponding the flow of blessing is constricted. So it's not just in your imagination that when you're projecting good energy and positivity, the people around you are being affected by you. But according to the Zohar, the world changes based on you, based on where you live. The world is actually you're not just perceiving it differently, but according to the Zohar, you are connected to the 10 energies within you, are connected to the 10 energies of the world, and they are mirroring and reflecting the 10 energies within you. We are therefore directed, serve God with joy, the Zohar says, because mortal joy elicits corresponding supernal joy. How beautiful is that? So we affect what we eat, what we get here in this world. We literally affected by which energy are we tuning into is the energy that we get from Hashem from above. Very beautiful, very powerful. Let's see the slide over here. Like a person's feelings down here, so is the nature that rests upon him from above. So there's 10 attributes. There's wisdom, understanding, knowledge, kindness, severity, compassion, triumph, humility, connection, and royalty. What do you want? what is it that you want, you need to project, you need to connect with. As the world was created with these 10 attributes, the soul also contains these 10 attributes. What's happening here? He's going through all 10. So basically, I'm having a hard time showing all these things. So the brush, I guess the painting that you're painting is the emotions you feel, that is what you're going to paint. Okay, let's move right along on to text 11. Same idea in this text 11 from the Baal Shem Tov. Let's see. The psalmist says that one who trusts in God will be enveloped in kindness. We can infer the reverse as well. One who is constantly anxious of punishment associates himself with strict judgment that can lead to negative consequences, God forbid. In line with the verse, their fears I will bring to them. We become attached to whatever we contemplate. If we contemplate matters associated with severity, we become attached to judgment. If we trust in God's kindness, our souls will become attached to the kindness and we will indeed be enveloped in its kindness. So we create the bed that we sleep in. So we need to control our thoughts, because our thoughts are not just controlling our emotions within ourselves, but it's controlling the world around us and how it's existing. Okay, we'll leave with one more video. As they always talk about the power of when we wake up in the morning, we say Moda'ani to help us get into that meditative state. I think that that's a very common thing now lately that I'm hearing, is to meditate on the good things that you have, and you'll start seeing the good in your life. Let's see that Moda'ani meditation. It's a practical video, a practical meditation. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to play it, but I'll try. But anyway, that is let me just wrap up first what we spoke about today. What's the takeaway? Number one is that be aware of your thoughts. You're in control of your thoughts. And if you're gonna try to control your essence, you might have a very hard time. But what your mind's gonna think about, that will create and control your existence and your experience of your emotions that you have. And number two, make sure to think good thoughts and wholesome thoughts. And also set a time every day, like we learned about prayer, to have positive emotions on a daily basis in order to guide you and allow your body and mind to come into this special state that we're in. Let me see if I can play the video now. Here is the Moda'ani video. It's not going to show. You guys see that?
Yes.
No matter what yesterday was all about, tomorrow is a fresh day. You're going to begin painting on a new canvas, creating a very different picture, again, one of your choice. We do that spiritually every day when we say in the morning the affirmation Moda'ani. And what characterizes a new day is to begin initially with gratitude, because from a posture of gratitude, you can paint a beautiful picture of the coming day. Gently close your eyes. Allow your shoulders to slump a little, feeling warm and heavy. Warm and heavy. Feeling your arms, your legs, warm and heavy, inducing the relaxation response, feeling calm, peaceful, and serene. You have much to be thankful for, and each morning express gratitude, because the gratitude that you express is able to begin the painting of a new canvas, a new creation, a new picture of the day. Modeh Ani. I thank you, Hashem, for bringing back to me this morning a freshness of soul, consciousness, and awareness. Modeh Ani. I thank you, Hashem, for providing me with the freedom to express myself today, truly. Modeh Ani. I thank you, Hashem, for allowing me to be distinctive, original, unique, so that my soul can make its unique contribution to the world. Modeh Ani. I thank you, Hashem, for changing the world every day in front of my eyes, giving me the scope to be able to play my individual role in the whole process that leads to a destiny that I am part of. Hashem, I feel indebted. I feel gratitude. Thank you, Hashem. Today will be a new day.
Try to bring up one more video here of just the points. Let's see, we have a little clip here, I think. By the way, you guys are gonna have access to this Google Drive. If anybody wants to watch the videos, again, I'll also upload the class recording to here. But here are the key points. Hopefully I can do this. Let's see.
Lesson 1. Do you mind? Prizing powers of Jewish meditation. 1. Meditation is an authentic Jewish practice that plays a large role in Jewish life. 2. We have control over our feelings and have the capacity to overcome negative feelings and experiences. 3. We have the ability to be in control of our thoughts and can choose what we think about at any given moment. 4. Our thinking feeds our emotions. By getting rid of negative thoughts, we cut off negative feelings. 5. Meditating on positive thoughts develops a positive mindset and positive emotions. 6. Positive meditation actually impacts the world around us and elicits a positive response from God, which shapes reality for the good.
All right. Thank you all for joining me. Who's still here? I hope you benefited from today's class. I want to know how many books to order. Who wants books? Just so I know.